What's up, weekenders? I'm Corbin and welcome to my channel, and today we're taking my Bronco to the next level. But first, let me ask you this. Do you have a carbon fiber addiction? Or whenever you go to your Cars and Coffee, do you want to be parked front row? Or whenever you valet your Bronco, do you want them to park it next to Lamborghinis and Ferraris? Or do you just want to be the coolest guy on the trail? Well, I want to be all of that, so that's why we're going to install Composite Off-Road's 6th gen Bronco carbon fiber fender flares, which I got from Lobo Off-Road. Now, I cannot wait to see how this looks when it's all put together, so let's just jump right into the install. Okay, first things first, let's go over everything that we're gonna need to install. And as you can see, I opted for the OEM style Sasquatch fender flares. I think they're just a nice clean look. They do also make these in a style that's gonna be wider and raise them so you have more tire clearance. So if you're looking for max clearance, definitely check those ones out. But these are going to be OEM style Sasquatch carbon fiber fender flares. And you're also going to get a hardware bag with nuts and bolts and washers. And then you're going to have rib nuts. So these fenders are held on with rib nuts. So it's going to completely eliminate that OEM turnstile quick release fastener that come on your stock fender flares. I think this is better because no one's gonna be able to just take your fender just by turning some little switches underneath your fender. These are gonna be pretty flashy, so I don't want somebody just running off with them. This is how I'd want to do it regardless. So you're gonna have your hardware, and with the rib nuts, you're gonna need a rib nut tool. Now you can get these from Harbor Freight for relatively cheap. And then you're gonna need a wrench or socket, 10 millimeter, and you're gonna need a standard drill with a 5/16 drill bit. You're also going to need a 25/64 drill bit, which is going to be the size that you're going to need to upsize holes for your rib nuts. And you're also going to need a step drill bit or Christmas tree drill bit. That's because you're going to have to do some slight adjustments to get these fender flares to fit absolutely perfectly. Now they are pilot drilled, as you can see. They do have pilot drills in each spot that you're going to need, but to get them to sit exactly where you want them to and to look perfect, you're gonna need to do slight adjustments by either just opening up holes or kind of elongating holes. So that's where those drill bits are gonna come into play. But with all that, that's everything that you're gonna need to install. So let's just jump right into step one. Okay, step one is going to be to remove your factory fender flares, and to do so, you're just going to have to turn those factory turnstile clips, and then you're just going to yank it off. Actually, I have a broken fender flare back here, so you can kind of see what these turnstile clips look like. So you're just going to go ahead, you're going to turn these guys like such, and then just pull the fender off. Then you're just going to want to take some detail spray and clean up underneath where your fender was laying. This way we have a nice clean surface to work with. Okay, now we're at the point where we're actually going to want to upsize the holes in your fender, and we're going to be doing that with the 25/64 drill bit. Let me repeat that, a 25/64 drill bit is going to be the size that you're going to need to upsize these holes to. And the holes that you're upsizing are going to be the smallest set of holes. So you're going to see a larger hole and a smaller hole. We're upsizing the 5 smaller holes on the fender. So it's going to be this hole, this hole, this hole, this one, and the one down here near the bottom. So I'm going to go ahead, upsize those, and then we'll install the rib nuts. This is the part of the install where we're going to go ahead and install the rib nuts. To do so, you're going to take your rib nut tool with the 6 millimeter head installed, and you're going to open it up and completely install a rib nut onto it until it seats nice and flush like such. And you're just going to go ahead, take this tool, throw it into one of your freshly drilled holes, and tighten it down. Once it's tightened, you can go ahead and just unscrew the rib nut from the tool. And now you have a nice tightly installed rib nut, and you're just going to go ahead and do that process for the rest of your drilled holes. once you get your rib nuts installed, you're gonna go ahead and take your actual carbon fiber fender flare. You're just gonna line it up with a couple bolts. You're gonna go ahead on the forward side and get that one started just to see how it lines up. Okay, once I got a couple bolts in, I took a look to try to see how the holes actually lined up with the rib nuts, and it looks like I'm gonna have to upsize just 2 holes, I think. So we're gonna go ahead and pull this back off, and then we'll use that Christmas tree bit and just upsize those holes just a hair. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead, I'm gonna upsize a couple of these holes. I also realized that the very aft bottom hole near my door needs to be elongated downwards. So I'm gonna take that 5/16 drill bit from earlier, and I'm just gonna kind of drag the hole down a little bit. Nothing too crazy, not too hard. You can also do that with a Dremel, but I'm just gonna try it with a drill bit and see how that works. And all right, I got all the bolts installed. They aren't tight yet, but they all go in, and the fender looks to be pretty symmetrical, so I'm gonna go ahead, tighten them up, and see how it looks. And okay, that is the install for the Composite off-road parts carbon fiber fender flares for your 6th gen Bronco that you can get from Lobo Off-Road. Now, a little side note, when you go to install, it's really just going to be a trial and error kind of thing. You're just going to take the fender off, make hole adjustments, put it back on until it lines up perfectly and it follows this contour of your actual fender perfectly. Also, once you go to do your final tightening of the bolts, be sure that you don't really cinch it down. Just give it a nice hand tight and a little snug push of the wrench, and that should do it just fine. And looking at the fenders, so I have non-Sasquatch fenders in my rear. Don't mind it's broken from a little off-road trip, but you can see that these are Sasquatch fender. It's going to give me more tire coverage compared to my rear. You see the poke there, so that should be good. I'm also hoping that this tire now tucks up underneath this fender. That is what damaged that rear fender. Nonetheless, you're going to go ahead, you're just going to repeat this process on all 4 corners, and then the install of your carbon fiber fender flares is done. Guys, I cannot believe how good these fender flares look. I mean, they just really set the Bronco off, and I think it's going to set it apart from everyone else's Bronco out on the trail, and I couldn't be more excited. Now, my install video is just kind of a brief overview of how to install these. If you want to see a completely broken down how to install video for these, go check out Lobo Off-Road's website. They have a great install video on how to get these done, and that's what I followed. Now, these guys are made out of grade A 2x2 carbon material, which is 100% made here in the US, and they're also UV protected, which is extremely important because you don't want these high-end parts to fade or look dull over time. You're not gonna have to worry about that with these. They should look good for the entirety of its life. Also, I know that these are kind of like a show piece, but I actually truly believe that they'll take a hit off-road. Carbon fiber is really robust, and I believe if this took a hit, it would just kind of warp and come back out to place without distorting or doing anything crazy like that. The plastic fenders that come stock on these things, if you hit them, they'll literally just crack in half, or the top layer will break off. I don't think you'll have to worry about that with these. Also, I know the price seems a little high for fender flares, but honestly, you got to remember that these are made out of high-end carbon fiber. And also, if you compare Jeep fenders to these, I believe those are like $1,200 just for the front pair, and then $1,200 for the rear pair. Whereas these guys come in at $1,600 for the OEM style ones and $1,700 for the more functional ones, which is going to be an inch wider and I believe 2 inches taller, which is going to give you more clearance to stuff your meaty tires up underneath and get a little bit more clearance. So I actually think that the price on these guys is pretty fair considering what they are. But nonetheless, guys, let me know, would you put these on your Bronco? I think they're pretty cool, and I can't wait to test them out on the trail. But with that being said, guys, don't forget to subscribe, hit that like button if you think these guys are cool, and we'll catch you at the next waypoint.